Yeah, sir, I'm going to be confiscating that if you don't mind. What? My xenomorph? Why? What did my xenomorph do? Xenomorph has been far too oppressive and far too unreactable for far too long with that tail attack of his. Hand him over. Unacceptable and oppressive? Wait a minute. Who's that behind you? Somebody behind... Oh, yeah. I didn't really think about that. Yeah, I don't know him. Listen here, bucko. If Xenomorph goes...
he goes too.
All right, Ken, let's get you back to Barbie. He's not biting. That's what I thought. Hi guys, Brand here, and welcome to another commentary. But you thought I wasn't going to talk about Ken Kaneki? You're out of your mind. There's so many people having such divisive takes about this. You think I wouldn't throw my hat in the ring? Come on. Come on. Do you know me? If there's one thing I'm very good at, it's not shutting up. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Ken Kaneki. This has been a long time coming, mostly because the Xenomorph stuff happened at the exact same time with the big overhaul to that character, and then the Blood Moon event came out, and I want to talk about that. But I was always going to get around to Ken Kaneki. Don't get that twisted. This also has been hard for me to get to because this makes me so mad as a topic in Dead by Daylight, because there have been so many biased and bad faith takes about this character. It really has kind of brought out some of the worst in the community. I've seen the most off the wall and just biased filled takes I have seen in a really, really long time in this community. It's so hard to get a correct idea of like what's actually happening with Kaneki, because so much bias is coming through that way, whether that be like an intense love for the character or intense hatred to the character. It is coming through on both sides, making it hard to get a clear picture of what's even happening. And for that reason, I don't think that there's any way that this video makes everybody happy, because some people have deluded themselves that Kaneki is absolutely perfect with no flaws, is perfectly help-free for the game in every way, and others claim the other end of that Kaneki is flawed in every way, needs a Skull Merchant level gutting, needs a complete rework, and neither of this is an appropriate response to this character at all. These are both the extremes, but nevertheless, with emotions and bias running high, let's go ahead and upset some people with our way in. First off, I wanted to talk about why does Ken Kaneki feels so good. Ken Kaneki is likely the easiest high tier character in the game. When played well, Kaneki is easily a top 5 character in the game with his insane over the top map mobility, his guaranteed injuries, which is kind of like the main pain point that people have with the character, his anti-hold W gameplay, insane tunneling and camping ability with his ability to just leap back to hook whenever he wants, basically from anywhere on the map that he currently is, and even the ability to confirm the down with insane uses of either slides or his leaps while in Enraged mode. Mostly this comes down to his Enraged vault that kind of acts as a manual scamper, bringing that back into the game because we all clearly missed that. The power is fun, powerful, easy to use, and cuts out some of the game's main pain points of Dead by Daylight, like survivors pre-dropping and holding W, because regardless of how you feel about pre-dropping and holding W, it's not entertaining from either side's perspective. So that doesn't work against Ken Kaneki, which brings a lot of fun back to the game. And because of their very low skill floor, I can hop on Ken Kaneki anytime I want without really spending a lot of time learning him and have a relatively easy game. And the question, of course, comes with this: is this a good thing, though? Because this is kind of the issue with Kaneki as much as it is the benefit to Kaneki, is that because Kaneki is kind of just good at basically everything, he doesn't have any flaws that feel meaningfully exploitable, which ends up feeling kind of very unfair and impressive when you face him. His first hit is guaranteed. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Without any sorts of memes or entertaining exaggerations, Kaneki can get his first hit faster than Nurse a lot of the time. This is due to its range and mostly due to the immense auto aim that this attack has. Even after the slight adjustment that had just gotten a recent hotfix, his auto aim still covers most of the screen, hitting many people when they absolutely did not deserve to be hit, including to hitting people behind walls. This isn't even a good thing for Kaneki either, because as many budding Kaneki mains I've already figured out, the auto aim will lock on to someone even when you don't want it to. If you had planned to chase somebody down, say the side of Shaq, and you want to just leap off the wall and then cancel your power mid jump, a lot of times they'll just auto lock onto the person anyway. So not even people who like actually made this character are a tremendous fan of this auto aim mechanic, because sometimes it actually screws you over. So this leaves the survivors upset because there's literally nothing you can do against the first hit, but it also serves to ruin your second hit for a lot of Kaneki mains. It's also upsetting because the game for survivors against Kaneki is not, can I avoid being injured, but when is the injury coming? Even for Legion, who has a very comparable gameplay cycle as Kaneki, has actions that can be taken against the Feral Frenzy, like pallet stuns, locker jukes, window fakes, blinds, etc., to try and stop the guaranteed hit. Kaneki's hit is just kind of straight up guaranteed. Even with walls and obstacles, the lock-on is so forgiving that it'll just hit 9 times out of 10 anyways, even if you're behind a wall. So like the only defense that you realistically have against this power isn't really one at all. Getting this auto aim hit, despite it almost literally being a free hit, actually rewards you as well, which I find to be one of the most puzzling things about his design that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about. Is like, yeah, you heard that right. A lot of powers, perks, etc. in Dead by Daylight reward you for inputting something difficult and receiving an award. For example, if you win a chase and you brought Skirnhurt's pain res, you can down that person and then go hook them on a pain res, which regresses a gen by 20%. It's a reward for finishing a chase and carrying somebody all the way to a Scourge hook. Makes sense, right? Big boom for thing you did that was kind of hard. Makes sense, right? However, with Ken Kaneki, this is backwards. Doing the easiest part of his power, and honestly probably the easiest power to use in the game, rewards you with Enraged mode, which reduces your charge time, it reduces your vault time, essentially bringing Manual Skipper back to the game because we all missed that, and it also gives you a third leap to use to further get that second hit even easier. This is honestly the part of the power that makes me scratch my head the most, because like, why is the super powered mode of a killer given for doing something that even like a 5-hour Andy can do in the game with ease? Like, it truly makes no sense, and I question why we added a reward system to a character that has guaranteed hits. It doesn't make any sense. Beyond it not just making sense, it kind of defeats the purpose of the character's design when you really think about it, because the clear design is easy first hit, difficult second hit. But because of the 3 leaps and the return of the manual scamper, you can just get that second hit also fairly easily. Not as free as the first hit, don't get me wrong, but still fairly easily. Even on a map like Gideon's Meatpacking Plan, I was able to enraged leap over pallets and essentially manual scamper them a la old Chucky and get the hit before they came back around to the other side of the pallet, which is, by the way, why you're seeing so much made for this, because with the enraged leap, you catch up so quickly that literally that 3% is the only thing you can defend yourself with, is just barely making the pallet. I remember I was on RPD facing a Kaneki, and I was looping the God pallet, God pallet, by the way, looping the God pallet near the laundry room, and he enraged leaped over the pallet, and I had made for this and resilience on, and I still barely got hit. If I was slightly higher ping, I would have got hit. He literally missed me by a hair, and I had 3% speed and a 9% vault speed, and I still almost got hit. It was the most like jarring, like scary thing I have ever like encountered in this game, because like I'm usually the guy that'll be like, hey, let's be a little bit careful. Let's not call things too early, okay? That clearly, you know, people are probably freaking out about Ken Kaneki a little too much. Let's let it cook a bit. But when I faced them with made for this, with resilience, and still almost got hit at a God pallet, I'm like, this seems a little interesting. Blight cannot do that. Blight would probably bounce, get stuck in the laundry room trying to do the bounce, and then not make it to the other side. Or he'd be taking so long to get to the other side, you would have time to vault back, and then you have to do the whole process to get back to the other side of the pallet. Not even Blight can solve that loop. Kaneki does, unless you run the right perks, which is genuinely terrifying. I will say that the character that cuts off the chaining of tiles is not really a bad idea in premise. Kaneki excels at cutting off Wing to the next loop, and I honestly love that about his design. I do think that we shouldn't use characters to necessarily fix problems with behavior's map design. The last time we did that didn't end too well, right, nurse mains? But my issue comes that even when you lock a survivor down a loop, Enraged mode often just gets you that second hit easily as well. If the character is designed in a way that like first hit good, force you to loop, and then the loop was actually like fruitful for both sides, that'd be an amazing design. I don't think anybody would take an issue with that. But that Enraged mode often just gets you that second hit just as easily. And many people defend Kaneki's design with, well, he's anti-W, and that's inherently healthy for the game. But he's kind of just also anti-loop as well. He's anti-W and anti-loop. And we kind of need to be honest that he's almost just as good in the loop as he is at denying the loop. This gets even worse too, because if the Kaneki is running stuff like Brutal, Fire Up, Bamboozle, you can break the pallet at the current loop, you can shut down the window, and then it's like, yeah, stay at the loop, perish, leave the loop, perish. There's like quite literally nothing you do in that scenario. At that point, you're kind of just at the mercy of whatever map you're on. If the tiles are tightly compact, something like New Dead Sands or like Wrecker's Yard, for example, Kaneki may feel good to face. And I feel like that's why a lot of content creators that like defend them who play Survivor really like this character, because if you play him on maps that have good like palette density, specifically, then he does feel a little bit better to face, because even with all of his leap around manual scamper stuff that he can do, just going to the next tile that's like 2 meters away with another pallet, he still has to spend the time to break it and go through, spend the time to break it through, go through all that wonderful stuff. But at that point, is that not more of the map than you? Right? And I think it's funny because my personal issue with Kaneki doesn't even come with like any of this stuff. It comes from something completely different, which I think that behavior agrees with, but not the entire community agrees with, is that I think that bottlenecking as an issue in Dead by Daylight has been there for a really, really long time. And I'm sick of it, and a lot of the community is sick of it, and I know behavior is sick of it. But I know some people don't care. I think behavior has done a good job of tackling bottlenecking in the game. I think first off, we should talk about what bottlenecking is, because some people may not know what I mean by that. It's that having extremely like weak characters or extremely strong characters makes it really hard to balance the game or to put out new content that's fun for everyone, because there's so many outliers that you have to account for that we can't put the things we want in the game. There's so many perks that have either been nerfed or not come to the game because Nurse is so strong that she would take advantage of them in such an unfair and unfun way that we can't have that freedom of design. That's why perks like Surge don't go off on M2. If you get like Demogorgon using Surge, it's probably not a big deal. Demo using Surge would be absolutely fine and make total sense. But if Nurse is using Surge, suddenly she's one of the most oppressive characters of the game, even more than she already is. Suddenly she becomes a freaking nightmare. So that's why we can't have stuff like that. So behavior has been working over time to try and slowly remove these things from the game. Freddy is a perfect example of this. Freddy used to be D tier, one of the bottom 3 characters in the game. And now he's up in like B or C tier, depending on who you ask. He's in a good place. And conversely, behavior has tried, admittedly failed, but tried to bring down the SD characters like Blight, like Nurse, by giving them nerfs, add-on reworks, etc. The goal of the game, for player enjoyment and for the future game design, is to limit bottlenecking and characters in the game who cause it. So it doesn't quite make sense to me to have another character up in that contenders, like with Blight and Nurse, who are just as good, fighting with them, creating new bottleneck issues that are specific to Kaneki. It's already rough that we have to have perks like Awaken Awareness nerfed because of Nurse and never return to their former form because of Nurse. Now we'll have to think about perks, add-ons, and map design from the perspective of another guy named Ken Kaneki, who's also somebody we're gonna have to be a little bit careful about designing the game around because he's really good. This is like my main point to a lot of people. Are like, man, you're such a Survivor main. What's wrong with like having an S tier character in the game? Well, it would be that it makes it harder to design the game for everybody else, both the survivors and killers. It makes it hard to design maps, perks, items, whatever, when we have to account for S tier characters that are just so far above the rest of the roster. So let's not add more. That being said, let me be clear. This character is still very fun, and I do not think at all that they deserve to be gutted, reworked, or anything to that extent. Kaneki just needs some small adjustments, so he's just a strong A tier, but not somebody who's going to bottleneck future design for the game, because right now I believe he absolutely will. Things like reducing the grab's hitbox and range, how lenient his ability cancel is and the speed he gets afterwards, and maybe take a look at some of the stronger add-ons, and I think he'll be in a fine spot. And all those are relatively small adjustments. They're not that crazy. They're just some number adjustments, and that's it. And let it be known further that this is also to Kaneki's like benefit, or at least to his player base, because if you're like me, the main reason I don't enjoy Kaneki that much is because he's so easy. A lot of my games feel like I'm just kind of like taking candy from a baby, and I wish that my games feel more like I earned them. A lot of DB's player base loves clip farming, skill shots, stuff like that, and those players will flock to Kaneki if he becomes more skill expressive and not so free. I know I for sure would feel more rewarded playing Kaneki if it didn't feel like I was just bulldozing the survivors every single time I got on. My final advice concerning the whole Kaneki thing is it would be this. If you're someone who thinks this killer is absolutely fine as is, I would do some research and be open-minded. Go out into the community and ask people their experiences or watch their experiences live directly. And I promise the community is not freaking out for nothing. This character is as strong as people say. And it's more of a question of what we do about it and not so much are they actually that oppressive. And just like we've seen with different characters in the past, I think pretending they're not serves to hurt more than it helps. And if you're on the flip side, if you're somebody who despises this killer, please be patient, please be realistic with the things you say. This killer is not inherently flawed. They do not need to be reworked. They just need to be reined in. The character's power is fun and action-packed. It just needs to not have the skill for it, be literally in the dirt and not be so strong at the same time. If this character was brought down to A tier, I guarantee you would have a lot more fun against this character. So be patient, don't lobby for something that's way more excessive of a change than it needs to be, and it'll be fine. And this is the part of the video I really wanted to get to, and some of you are probably wondering I haven't talked about it yet. I think this conversation has been definitely underlined by the fact that there's been a lot of character guttings happening recently, and I would know they attempted to assassinate my character. And so now everybody assumes that every nerf that could ever happen in the game for the foreseeable future will now be a gutting as well. And while obviously that's not true, probably, it's the precedent that behavior is unfortunately set. And thankfully, that precedent is being worked against. They would not have worked so hard to roll back the changes against the xenomorph if they did not think that, hey, this is something we need to take in a different direction. This is not how we should do things anymore. However, it's gonna take a while to build that integrity back up. They are trying to do better, but it's going to take a long time to regain that trust from the community. If anything, this would be the perfect opportunity to continue to prove that that's not how they do things anymore. If they adjusted Kaneki in a more measured way and showed restraint, that'd probably build a lot of that trust back, but it's still a trust that they still have to earn back. They put a good step forward by not going through with the xenomorph changes, but some would argue that putting them forth in the first place was kind of scary. They got to still keep building that trust at the end of the day. That way, when we look back, we look at their process of decisions, we see a bunch of like level-headed, not snap decisions that err towards the better health of the game overall. So what do you guys think? This video actually ended up being far longer than I thought it would be. I tried to give it a fair shake without being too unfair to either perspective that people have when it comes to this character. Hopefully my survivor main bias didn't come through. So now more than ever, please tell me how you feel about Ken Kaneki. Is he too much? Is he just right? What kind of changes would you propose for them? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, that's it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I made your day a little bit better today. And if I didn't, well, I'll try to do so again in the next video. And if I don't see you there, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.